This week is the 1-month anniversary of the Lewisham arson attack. 1 month since an unknown arsonist savagely took the lives of 5 people and a homeless man. And now another building has burned down in Hackney. It's terrifying. And almost as bad as the fires themselves is the anti-fire hysteria that has been conjured up in the minds of the woke left cancel mob. People of Great Britain, it is I, normal English lady and not Soviet secret agent Natasha Mikolovna Orchidectomy. Would you like to join me for normal British refreshments, cucumber sandwiches, afternoon tea, and we can talk about normal British conversation topics, the weather, the football game, transphobia. I feel like I'm being very obvious. But what else can I do? I trained for so long to be a sleeper agent. I moved my whole life to London, and 2 weeks later the bloody Berlin Wall fell down. I never even got to do any spying. God, what I wouldn't give to be arrested for subversion. France in the 19th century was an absolute monarchy. That's a political system in which the monarch is not bound by any written law, so they have a right to do anything you can't stop them from doing. They had a lot of debt, and poor people paid more taxes than rich people because rich people wrote all the laws. And rich people had so captured the state that meaningful reform just wasn't happening. Plus ça change, plus la même chose. The people of France decided they'd had enough, so they wrote strongly worded letters and held peaceful protests until the people in charge felt so bad they changed their ways. I'm just kidding. They cut the king's goddamn head off. And almost immediately, several European politicians and philosophers shit their fucking pants. But one man could always be relied upon to keep his pants firmly unshitted, and that was Prussian philosopher Immanuel Kant. Suppose that you're watching a game of baseball, which, if you've never heard of it, is like cricket, but it's even worse. The guy who throws the ball, the bowler, he throws it towards home wicket where the batsman is, and he hits it. And the bowler has to throw the ball within a certain zone. And if he gets it in the zone and the batsman misses, that's called a strike. And if you get 3 strikes, then you're out. But it has to be in the zone. If he throws it up here, then it doesn't count. And if it's very close to the zone, all the spectators go, "Oh my God, was that a strike?" And then the umpire has to decide. Phenomenology is famously very simple. To understand it, let's read a passage from philosopher Edmund Husserl. Immediate seeing, sehen, not merely the sensory seeing of experience, but seeing in general as primordial data consciousness of any kind whatsoever, is the ultimate source of justification for all rational statements. It has this right-conferring function only because, and insofar as, its object-giving is primordial. This world is not there for me as a mere world. Okay. Let's do an example. You decadent Westerners, you think you have nothing to fear just because you didn't do anything wrong? Oh no, my friends. If you don't commit a crime, we can simply build the crime around you. Oh, I miss the KGB. The vaccine contains a little piece of the virus, not the virus itself. It is crucial to understand that. And depending on which one you get, the mechanism is different, but the effect is that your memory cells specialize in destroying that piece. That way, if you ever get infected with the real virus, they can produce the specific antibodies you need to stop it. It's kind of like if you showed your body a picture of the virus and you were like, "Watch out for this bitch," and your body was like, "Okay, cool, I'll remember that." That's also why variants can be such a pain in the ass, because the virus turns up and suddenly it looks a little bit different and everyone's like, "She looks good. She got some work done." I felt very powerless, very empty. I wanted to do something. I felt very adrift in a hostile world. But that's Werner Herzog for you, I suppose. He can find a way to make even the most banal things seem horrifying.
The dirty dishes in the sink. To me, they represent mayhem and death.
This is a classic Kantian move. To insist that the thing you want must not be contradictory. If you can grasp what he's doing here, then a lot of the rest of his stuff will start making sense. And generations of philosophy students have felt that same frustration you might be feeling, where it's like, come on, Kant, what are you, a Vulcan? People aren't 100% rational all the time. We're not consistent. And he'd say, yeah, I know. But you should try. If you're gonna use brain, you gotta use all brain. I said up top that social constructs are built into our environment, and the way we think about our environment facilitates different kinds of engagement with it. For instance, say you take your car in to have the airbags replaced after they've gone off, and the mechanic says, "Why did the airbags go off?" And you say, well, an onboard sensor measured a deceleration of greater than average braking speed, and that sent an electrical current along a circuit to a heating element, triggering a chemical reaction releasing nitrogen gas. The mechanic might say, okay, but why did the airbags go off? And you say, I had 19 pints and crashed into a wall. If you give that first explanation about sensors and nitrogen, well, then I guess we just have to fit another airbag. But if you give the second explanation about drunk driving, well, now we need to talk about your insurance. Depending on how you explain the problem, different solutions present themselves.
The body of the Muslim woman, a body fixed in the Western imaginary, as confined, mutilated, and sometimes murdered in the name of culture, serves to reinforce the threat that the Muslim man is said to pose to the West, and is used to justify the extraordinary measures of violence and surveillance required to discipline him and Muslim communities.
The Islamic world never had a secular enlightenment, which is why they can't understand that ladies deserve to have a choice in life. Specifically, the choices that we tell them to have. The point is that you have done something bad, and you deserve to be punished. People are going to clip that out of context, aren't they? The actual stuff that's in the injection vial gets broken down. So that's why we can be very confident there won't be any nasty surprises. Because after a few days or weeks, there won't be anything in you that wasn't already there. You know what they say? If you give a man an antibody, he'll eat for a day. But if you teach a man's body to make antibodies, he'll have an antibody for the rest of his life. A lot of legal texts define violence as involving some kind of physical force or damage, but then threatening somebody is often seen as violent too in law. The Oxford Online Dictionary defines violence as, your subscription to the Oxford Online Dictionary has expired, please click here to renew. Every time I get the dictionary joke, every time. Now, before anyone accuses me of being some kind of secret leftist infiltrator trying to undermine the West, please note, the two critics of post-9/11 security culture that I just quoted were not Marxist academics or purple-haired students, but a judge and an FBI agent. And when they're the ones saying that something's gone wrong, I mean, I am a secret leftist infiltrator, but I'm an honest one. I did try taking over the British Labour Party, but Keir Starmer foiled my schemes with his unstoppable sexual charisma. The Homicide Act was, in parliamentary language, f***ing dog shit. It was a political compromise rather than a well-thought-out set of ideas. So it had a bunch of weird loopholes, like, if you murder someone whilst robbing them, well, you hang for that. But if you murder someone whilst robbing them but they don't have any money on them, well, you don't hang for that. If you rape somebody and kill them so there's no witness, you don't hang for that. But if you kill somebody with a longbow whilst you're standing on the border of a county and it's Tuesday and you do it with through your legs with one eye like that. Some people claim that getting vaccines weakens your natural immune system, but that's kind of like saying lifting weights will make you stronger, but it weakens your natural muscles. That's just not how it works. In fact, it's safer to get vaccinated because you can get the immunity without taking the risk of a serious infection. Remember, we may not have a lot of long-term evidence on the vaccine, but we do have a lot of long-term evidence on being a corpse. The quality of discourse has declined. Last week, my good friend, Baroness Plantation War Crimes, had stones thrown at her, metaphorically, in an innocent, digital muddle-up, Plantation liked a tweet that was critical of firefighters. And almost immediately, the anti-fire woke mob started baying for her blood just for daring to challenge anti-fire orthodoxy, to accuse Baroness War Crimes, a woman who has spent her entire political career safeguarding the lives and livelihoods that matter most in this country, of encouraging arson, is ridiculous, just for liking a tweet that said, firefighters are all and off a balcony into a Many reasonable people have legitimate concerns. A lot of people who weren't even Muslim got a hard time just because people thought that they were Muslim, and a large number of hypocritical and simplistic stereotypes about Muslims were disseminated widely.
The Islamic world never had a secular enlightenment, which is why they have such a disposition towards violence. Unlike Great Britain, a peaceful society that's never been violent towards anyone.
Is gender something in you, or is it a relation between you and other people? If a tree falls in the forest and nobody's around to hear it, what are its pronouns? Zaire was ruled by a military dictator called President Mobutu, who wasn't very nice. He got the job in 1961, and for the next 3 decades, he and his friends literally just transferred public money into their own bank accounts, including billions in foreign aid. Rise and grind, entrepreneurs! Gotta get that passive income! Billionaire mindset, baby! To the Jacobins, the violence of the French Revolution was justified in the context of what came before. But understandably, that came as little comfort to Louis XVI, who still ended up contextually f***ing dead. The million-dollar question is, how do we separate the violence that we care about from the violence that we are willing to accept or believe to be inevitable? And that's kind of what politics is for. Something I noticed when I transitioned is that for a man to sit down and finish a big meal is often portrayed as a victory, like he's conquered the plate. For a woman to sit down and eat a big meal is often portrayed as a failure, like we've given in to temptation, we've been naughty, we have let ourselves go. So there's 2 different kinds of relation to the self going on there. Take a look at this advert from 1910 for Kellogg's Fat Reducer. That's Kellogg's as in cornflakes, it was the same guy. The skinny lady is saying, "Don't cry because you are fat. Send to Professor Kellogg and he will reduce you as he did to me." And the big lady who's crying, I'm not sure if you can see this, but she has a little moustache. If you were feeling particularly pessimistic, you might well ask, given these problems, at what point do we say that Britain is a failed state? I am putting on the Joker makeup. I am putting on the Guy Fawkes mask. I am putting on the combination Joker makeup and Guy Fawkes mask.
The Islamic world never had a secular enlightenment, which is why they're facing so many awful problems. Unlike Great Britain, a country whose problems they'll just sort themselves out. It's fine here. We love it. Ha! Britain! Ha! Everything's fine. Oh, I say, do you smell smoke?
I did not knowingly meet another trans person until I was already an adult. I remember the first time I did. I met this girl at my uni and I said, "Hey dude," and she said, "I'm actually a woman. I'm a trans woman." And I said, "What's that?" And she told me and I was like, "How? That's fucking gay!" This is not my home. It's a production studio that I rented for the day. I live in a hole in the ground. Do not Hassan Piker me!